I think you need a hug. Can I hug you? The words were soft but clear, piercing through the frosty hush of Central Park like a whisper from another life. James Holloway turned his head slowly, drawn out of the heavy fog of his thoughts. A little black girl stood before him, her cheeks pink with cold, one mitten missing. Her hair was tucked under a too large knit hat, and she looked up at him with wide, steady eyes. What did you say? You look like you need a hug, she said, as if it were the most obvious thing in the world. James blinked, unaccustomed to being addressed, so direct, especially not by a child. His world had shrunk down to executive memos, quiet dinners alone, and nights where grief echoed louder than silence. I'm Maya, she added, shifting from one boot to another on the icy ground. My mommy says hugs don't fix everything, but they help. He managed a soft laugh. That's pretty wise. I'm 5, she said proudly, then added, and a half. James smiled despite himself. Well, thank you for the offer, Maya. She looked down at something on her wrist, a colorful woven bracelet made of yarn and tiny plastic beads. After a pause, she unfastened it and held it out to him. You should wear this. It helps me when I'm sad. James hesitated. The bracelet was handmade, frayed in places, clearly precious. I couldn't. It's okay, she interrupted gently. I can make another one. He took it carefully, humbled. She reached out and slid it over his glove and up onto his wrist. It looked out of place against his tailored overcoat and $1,000 watch. But it felt right. I'm James, he said. It's very nice to meet you, Maya. She smiled. Want to meet my mommy? She's right over there. James followed her finger toward a nearby bench. A woman sat wrapped in a thick coat, her eyes tracking Maya like a hawk. There was a paper bag of groceries at her feet. She looked tired, but alert, wary, even. Maya reached for James's hand. Come on, she's nice. You'll like her. He let himself be led. It was absurd, this situation, a powerful CEO being escorted through a snowy park by a 5-year-old. Yet something about Maya's presence felt disarming, like a crack of sunlight in a long winter. As they neared, the woman stood. Her gaze moved from Maya to James, guarded but polite. Maya, she said firmly, we've talked about wandering off. I didn't go far, Mommy. He looked like he needed someone. The woman's eyes landed on James. I'm sorry about her forwardness. It's all right, James said, his voice surprisingly soft. She's something special. She nodded slowly. I'm Anna. Thank you for not being, a threat? James offered with a wry smile. Yes. There was a pause. Anna looked at the bracelet on his wrist and then back at him. She gives those only when she means it. I figured, he said, glancing at it. I'm honored. They stood in silence for a beat longer before Anna gestured to the bench. Would you like some coffee? It's instant, but it's warm. James nodded, and they sat. The coffee came from a battered thermos, slightly burnt and overly sweet, but it was comforting. Maya nestled between them, sipping cocoa from a small cup, content. You're not from around here, Anna said after a moment. I live just a few blocks away, actually, Upper West Side. Her eyebrows lifted, just slightly. You don't strike me as the park bench type. Not usually, James admitted. Today's an exception. Anniversary? James blinked at her. Excuse me? You've got that look, Anna said gently, like someone remembering something that hurts. He hesitated. 3 years ago, I lost my wife and my son, car accident. She froze, her breath caught, barely visible in the air. I'm sorry, she said. I think I might have treated them. He looked at her, confused. I used to work at St. Luke's Emergency Care. I was on rotation the night of a crash, mother and son, both in critical condition. The woman had a chain with a locket, photos inside. James's stomach dropped. A silver chain? With a gold clasp? Yes, Anna whispered. That was her, he said, voice tight. You were there? I didn't know you were. I didn't know who the husband was. It was chaos. I stayed with her as long as I could. James swallowed hard. Something sharp and grateful welled in his throat. Thank you. She looked away, blinking quickly. I'm sorry we couldn't do more. You stayed, he said. That means more than you know. Moments like these remind us that sometimes the smallest kindness can change everything. Take a moment to tell us where you're watching from in the comments. We love hearing from you. And if you haven't already, be sure to like this video and subscribe for more powerful stories that stay with you long after the screen fades to black. They sat quietly, the wind brushing through the trees. Maya rested her head on her mother's shoulder, eyes drooping. "I used to be in nursing school," Anna said softly. "Had to leave when Maya came, still hoping to finish someday." "You should," James said, glancing at Maya, then at Anna. "Some people are meant to help others." Anna gave a tired smile. "It doesn't pay the rent." James looked at the bracelet again. The simple yarn and beads felt heavier now, like a promise. "I'll be around," he said as he rose. "If you don't mind." Anna studied him. "We're usually here around this time." He nodded and looked down at Maya. "Thank you for the bracelet." "You keep it," she said sleepily, "until you're not sad anymore." As James walked back through the snow, the bracelet snug on his wrist, the cold seemed just a little less biting. He didn't smile, but something inside him had shifted. For the first time in years, he felt the faint, fragile tug of healing wrapped in yarn and offered by the smallest hands. The next morning, James Holloway stood in front of his bathroom mirror, fully dressed in his charcoal suit and pale blue TA, but his gaze was fixed on the colorful, handmade bracelet still snug around his wrist. He'd tried to take it off, twice, yet each time his fingers brushed the frayed yarn. He hesitated, as though removing it would undo the fragile thread that had pulled him out of his loneliness for one brief evening. He left it on. His penthouse on the Upper West Side overlooked the skyline, glass and steel rising like monuments to ambition. Yet the air inside remained cold, untouched by laughter or conversation. Breakfast sat untouched on the counter, scrambled eggs and grapefruit, the kind of meal he used to make for his son on school mornings. He hadn't cooked like that in years. James pushed the plate away. He checked the time. It was too early to visit the park, but he found himself putting on his overcoat anyway, sliding his hands into leather gloves, and descending the elevator before reason could stop him. By 9:30, the air was crisp, and the park dusted in a new layer of snow. He walked without thinking, drawn back to the bench. It was empty. James sat down, the cold biting through his coat. He looked at the bracelet again, bright blues, reds, and greens woven together by tiny, clumsy fingers. There was something pure about it. No agenda, no expectation, just care. He stayed for nearly an hour before rising to leave. That afternoon, during a board meeting, he caught one of the VPs glancing at his wrist. "New accessory, Mr. Holloway?" the man joked. "Looks cheerful." James didn't answer. The man chuckled nervously and turned back to the quarterly projections. James, however, found himself watching the bracelet as his fingers absently traced its edge beneath the table. It was a reminder not of charity, but of connection, of humanity. Later that day, at exactly the same time as the day before, he returned to Central Park. They were there. Anna sat on the same bench, reading a worn paperback. Maya was crouched near a pile of breadcrumbs, feeding pigeons with a seriousness usually reserved for major negotiations. James hesitated before walking over. "Hey," he said gently. Maya looked up, her face lighting like a lamp. "Mr. James." She ran to him, wrapping her arms around his waist without hesitation. Anna stood, brushing snow off her coat. "Well, I guess you're a regular now." "I suppose I am." "You kept the bracelet," she noted, her voice softer. James raised his wrist. "I tried to take it off. Couldn't." Maya grinned. "Told you it helps." Anna chuckled. "She thinks her crafts have magical properties." "They might," James said. "It's been a long time since someone gave me something just because they wanted to." Anna studied him for a moment. "You're not here by accident, are you?" "No," he admitted. "I'm not." She nodded slowly, accepting the answer without pushing. "Well, you're welcome to sit. Coffee?" "Please." They passed the thermos again, Maya curling up between them with her cocoa. Anna broke the quiet first. "Maya was born at Roosevelt. I was 24. Her dad left before she could say her first word." "Ugh." James didn't flinch. "I'm sorry." "I'm not," she replied. "It was hard, but it taught me what love really means, the kind that stays, the kind you build on." He nodded, thoughtful. "She was a quiet baby," Anna continued. "But not anymore. Now she's pure spirit, always asking questions. She asked me yesterday if I believed people could stop being sad. James said. I didn't know how to answer. Anna looked at him. And today? I'm still not sure, he admitted. But I think I want to find out. They sat in silence for a while. Then James turned to Maya. Do you come here every day? Not Sundays, that's library day, she said with pride. I love books. Me too, he said. What's your favorite? Harold and the Purple Crayon, she answered instantly. He draws his own world. James smiled. That's a good one. The wind picked up. And Anna pulled Maya's coat tighter. She glanced at James, then at the playground nearby. Do you want to take her over for a bit? She asked. I'll clean up our stuff. James hesitated, but Maya was already pulling at his hand. Come on, I'll show you the twisty slide. The playground was mostly empty, the few children there bundled in layers. James helped Maya up the ladder, his hands steadying her back instinctively. She reached the top, turned, and beamed down at him. Watch me. She slid down, landing with a puff of snow and laughter. James laughed too real, full. It felt strange, wonderful. She ran up again. Again, he didn't stop her. By the time they returned to Anna, Maya's cheeks were glowing, and her mittenless hand was pink from cold. Anna looked at them with quiet surprise. She doesn't usually warm up to people this fast. She's hard not to like, James said. They packed up their things. James offered to walk them to the shelter, but Anna declined. We're fine. You've already given us more than enough. He looked down at Maya. I'll see you again? You'd better, she said with mock sternness. Anna smiled. Same time tomorrow? Same time. As they walked away, James stood watching until they disappeared into the trees. The bracelet on his wrist felt warmer now, like it belonged there. That night, back in his penthouse, James did something he hadn't done in years. He opened a drawer, pulled out a photo of his wife and son, and placed it on the mantel. He looked at it for a long time, then whispered, I met someone today. 2 someones, actually. He didn't know where this was going. But for the first time in a long while, he didn't feel like he was drifting. And the bracelet still on his wrist reminded him that maybe healing didn't come in grand gestures. Sometimes, it came in a child's smile. And a question whispered through the snow. The next few days fell into a quiet rhythm. Each afternoon, just before the sun dipped behind the skyline, James found himself walking the familiar path to the bench near the lake in Central Park. Anna and Maya were always there, sometimes reading, sometimes feeding the birds, always waiting with a smile that reached past politeness and touched something deeper. It had been a long time since James felt part of something that wasn't dictated by contracts, deadlines, or performance metrics. What he found on that park bench was not a transaction. It was presence. It was human. One afternoon, as the first hints of spring flirted with the cold air, Maya greeted him with a new bracelet. This one was brighter yellow and green, and she insisted he wear it alongside the first. James obliged. His wrist now a patchwork of joy he carried into every boardroom and breakfast meeting. Anna noticed. You don't hide them, she said as they sipped coffee on the bench. I don't want to, he replied. She smiled. Most people do. James glanced at her. I spent years hiding pain. I think I owe it to myself to show what's healing me. Anna looked down at her hands. That's brave. James tilted his head. I think surviving quietly is braver. She didn't answer, but her silence wasn't empty. Later that day, as Maya played nearby on the swings, Anna opened up more. I saw your photo yesterday, she said. James turned. My photo? In the paper. Business section. James Holloway, CEO of Holloway Capital. I didn't connect the name at first. He gave a small nod. Most people know the company. Few know the man. She looked at him carefully. You didn't tell me. Would it have mattered? She thought for a moment. Number, but I'm glad I know. He hesitated. Does it change how you see me? No, she said firm. But it does explain the suit. They both laughed. And for a moment, the air was easier to breathe. Then her smile faded slightly. I looked up the crash. James stiffened. Anna went on gently. I wanted to be sure. That night at the ERI didn't know who I was treating. But I remember your wife. And your son. James didn't speak, so she continued. She had a wedding ring engraved inside. I remember tracing it with my thumb when we couldn't find her ID. He looked at her. It was inscribed with, Forever still isn't long enough. Anna nodded slowly. Yes. Silence fell between them, not awkward, but sacred. I stayed with her, Anna whispered. Until she passed. I thought. Maybe someone should. James's voice cracked. Thank you. She looked at him, her eyes suddenly glassy. I've never told anyone that. They sat without words, the breeze stirring Anna's coat, Maya's laughter floating from the playground. She was kind, Anna said softly, and scared, but peaceful. James closed his eyes, swallowed hard. She was the best person I knew. Anna reached out, hesitated, then placed her hand over his. They sat like that for a while. A week later, James invited them both to lunch at a small corner cafe off Columbus Avenue. It wasn't lavish, just a cozy diner with checkered floors and aging waitresses who knew regulars by name. Maya delighted in the grilled cheese and tomato soup, while Anna politely refused anything more expensive than a coffee and club sandwich. James watched them with quiet awe. The world that had once felt sterile was now full of unexpected texture. Maya's giggles over floating crackers, Anna's way of holding the cup with both hands as if grounding herself, the hum of connection that hummed beneath it all. As they walked home, Maya skipping between them, James turned to Anna. Do you want to go back to nursing school? Anna looked at him, startled. I think about it, every day. What stops you? Tuition, time, the fear that I'm too far behind. You're not, he said. She looked away. I wouldn't feel right taking help. This isn't charity, James replied gently. It's investment. In someone who stayed. In someone who mattered when it counted. Anna's eyes found his. You don't have to do this. I know. Maya, oblivious to the weight of the conversation, tugged his hand. Can we get hot chocolate? James smiled. Only if we get extra marshmallows. That night, James returned to his penthouse and sat by the fire. He didn't turn on the television. Instead, he opened a drawer and pulled out an old journal his wife sprayed in. It had been untouched since the accident. He flipped through pages stained with time, sketches of birthday plans, grocery lists, doodles of their son's messy curls. Then he found something he'd forgotten, a note tucked between the pages, in her handwriting. If something happens to me, don't close off, please. Let someone in. Even if it's not like Uslet, it'd be something good. James sat for a long time, staring at the page. Then, slowly, he placed it next to the photograph on the mantel. He touched the bracelets on his wrist, two colorful strands of yarn now worn but strong. The past would never leave him. But maybe, just maybe, it could walk beside him without dragging him down. And Maya's bracelets? They didn't just hold his wrist. They held him together. The following Saturday, the sky over Manhattan was a soft shade of pewter, hanging low with the threat of late snow. James stood outside the small neighborhood market near Anna and Maya's shelter, holding a modest bag of groceries. He hadn't told them he was coming. Something inside told him this wasn't a visit of grandeur but one of quiet offering. Inside the bag, fresh apples, a small block of cheddar, a loaf of sourdough, a box of herbal tea, and Maya's favorite, those colorful marshmallow cereals that left a trail of sugar across the lips of every delighted child. It wasn't much, but it was thoughtful. That mattered. He found them where he always died, on the same bench near the swing set. Anna was reading, her hair tucked under a knit cap, shoulders squared against the cold. Maya was skipping in place, counting pigeons and tossing small pieces of bagel at their feet. Afternoon, James called out. Maya's head turned first. Mr. James, she shouted, running toward him with open arms. Anna looked up, her expression shifting from surprise to warmth. You found us on a Saturday. I had a feeling, James said, kneeling to catch Maya's enthusiastic hug. Anna stood, brushing snow from her coat. We don't usually stay out long on weekends. The shelter opens late, gets crowded fast. James handed her the bag. Just a few things. Thought you might like something different tonight. Anna looked down at the bag, her hands hesitating before taking it. You didn't have to do this. I know. There was silence. Then Maya peeked into the bag, letting out a squeal. Marshmallow stars. Anna gave James a soft look. You remembered. Some things are worth remembering. They sat for a while. Sipping coffee, James brought in a second thermos. Maya built snow mounds beside the bench, pretending they were castles for invisible royalty. James watched her, the way her imagination danced uninhibited. "She's the reason I'm still standing," Anna said suddenly. James turned toward her. "After I dropped out, there were days I didn't think I could do it. Single mom, no degree, no safety net, just her and me. But every time she smiled, I knew I had to try." "You did more than try," James said quietly. "You stayed." Anna's gaze dropped to her gloved hands. "That's the hardest part, not just showing up once, but over and over, when nobody's looking." He nodded. "That kind of consistency, it's the rarest form of love." Maya ran over then, breathless. "Mr. James, can I show you something?" "Of course." She pulled a piece of folded construction paper from her coat pocket and handed it to him. Inside was a crayon drawing 3 figures holding hands under a bright sun. One wore a blue suit and had brown hair like his. Another wore a purple dress and had black curls. The smallest one had 2 bracelets and a huge smile. "That's me," she said proudly. "And Mommy. And you." James stared at it longer than he intended. "You're quite the artist." Maya beamed. "I made it for you." He folded it carefully and placed it inside his coat pocket. "Then I'll keep it close." Anna glanced at her watch. "We should head back. It's almost shelter dinner." I'll walk you there," James offered. The shelter was 2 blocks away, tucked between an aging laundromat and a tax office. Its brick exterior was faded, and the inside buzzed with fatigue. People sat quietly, clutching their bags, waiting for meals that were more about warmth than flavor. Anna signed in at the front desk while Maya clung to James's coat. "Do you ever get scared?" she asked suddenly. James crouched beside her. "Sometimes. But being scared isn't the same as being alone." She nodded thoughtfully. "I feel better when you're with us." He didn't know how to respond, so he squeezed her hand. Before they entered, Anna paused. "Thank you, for today, for caring." James smiled. "It's not an effort. It's a choice I want to keep making." Back in his apartment that night, James pulled the drawing from his coat and pinned it above his fireplace. Next to it, the photo of his wife and son. For a long time, he just stood there, looking at both. That week, he arranged something discreet, a call to a friend at a local community college, an inquiry about re-enrollment in the nursing program, a check toward tuition, signed anonymously. He told himself it wasn't about charity. It was about seeing something worth investing in and knowing he could help someone finish what they once had to abandon. The next time he saw Anna, she looked tired but somehow lighter. "I got a call," she said, "from Westboro College. They said someone had set up a scholarship in my name, covered the next 2 semesters. James raised his eyebrows in mock surprise. "That's amazing." She narrowed her eyes playfully. "You wouldn't happen to know anything about that, would you?" "I might know someone who knows someone." Anna laughed softly. "You're impossible." "I'm persistent." Maya tugged his sleeve. "Does this mean Mommy gets to be Nurse Anna again?" "Yes," Anna said, tears in her eyes. "It does." James bent to look Maya in the eyes. "Your mommy is going to be the best nurse the city's ever seen." Maya grinned. "Can I be her assistant?" Anna looked at James, then back at her daughter. "Sweetheart, you already are." That night, as James walked home alone, a light snow began to fall. The city shimmered under streetlights. He looked up, letting the flakes touch his face. And for the first time in years, he didn't feel like he was walking back into an empty home. He was walking toward something. Something real, something good. Something that had begun with a bracelet and a hug. On a rainy Thursday morning, James arrived at Holloway Capital's downtown office wearing the same expression he'd once worn every day: focused, unreadable, composed. But something was different. As he stepped out of the elevator, the receptionist raised an eyebrow, not at his tailored coat or gleaming shoes, but at the bright, hand-woven bracelets still hugging his wrist. He ignored the glance. Let them wonder. His executive assistant, Marla, walked briskly beside him down the hallway. "Board meeting at 10, lunch with the Cargill investors at noon, and your brother called twice about the foundation dinner next week." "Reschedule the lunch," James said without slowing. Marla blinked. "Sir, I'll attend the board meeting. Then I need the afternoon off." Marla hesitated. "May I ask why?" James glanced at her with a faint smile. Because I promised someone I'd be at the school office by 1:30. Marla paused, the clipboard in her hands suddenly less important than the warm shift in her boss's tone. Very well, sir. As he entered the boardroom, the conversation halted. No one said anything, but James knew the reason. He looked the part, but the man walking into the room wasn't the same James Holloway they'd all known. He was still powerful, still sharp, but softer around the edges, less steel, more soul. After the meeting, James returned to his office and opened the drawer where he kept the drawing Maya had made. He took a moment to look at it before grabbing his coat. The sound of the rain outside only made the city feel smaller, more intimate. By 1:30, he stood outside the local elementary school just a few blocks from the shelter. Anna had called him the night before her first orientation meeting for nursing school had been scheduled at the same time as a school conference for Maya. She asked if he could go in her place. He'd said yes before she finished the sentence. Inside the office, Maya greeted him with a smile that made every dropped stock point and missed meeting fade into irrelevance. You came. I said I would. She beamed, holding his hand as they walked into the counselor's small office. The teacher, Mrs. Polk, was a kind-faced woman in her 60s with reading glasses perched on the edge of her nose. She looked surprised but not displeased when James introduced himself as a family friend. Maya is a remarkable child, she said once the door closed. Bright, curious, and incredibly empathetic. She's been helping some of our quieter students come out of their shells. James nodded proudly. That sounds like her. Mrs. Polk paused. But there's something else. James felt the shift in tone. Go on. She's mentioned being afraid at night. Not of anything specific. Just general fear. She says she dreams of her mother disappearing. That she wakes up crying sometimes. James felt a pang in his chest. She doesn't talk about it much. She wouldn't. Not to another child. But she feels deeply. I think she picks up more than most people realize. After the meeting, James walked with Maya through the light drizzle, holding her backpack while she skipped beside him. He didn't bring up the dreams. Instead, he asked about her favorite school books, her drawings, her lunch. She answered each question like it was the most important topic in the world. That evening, James met Anna on the shelter steps. She looked tired but energized. The kind of weariness that comes from progress rather than struggle. How was orientation? He asked. Exciting, she said. Overwhelming. But it feels right. She's doing great at school, he told her. But she's been having some hard dreams. Anna's face softened. I know. She clings to me some nights. I've tried to reassure her, but you're doing everything right, James said firmly. They walked a short stretch in silence. Then Anna stopped. You didn't have to go to that conference. You have a company to run. James looked at her. That company runs itself most days. Maya doesn't. Anna laughed quietly. Still, thank you. I meant it when I said this wasn't charity. I know, she said, but it's still more than I ever expected. James hesitated. Have you ever considered moving out of the shelter? She looked at him warily. James, I'm not suggesting anything dramatic. Just a temporary place. A studio apartment I own near the park. Empty, safe, fully furnished. You wouldn't owe me anything. No strings. Anna folded her arms. You do realize how this sounds, don't you? Yes. That's why I'm saying it carefully. He met her gaze. You deserve stability. Maya deserves a door she can lock at night. It's just an offer. She studied him for a long moment, then nodded. Let me think about it. Of course. Later that night, James returned to his penthouse, poured himself a cup of chamomile tea, and sat at the window. The city lights shimmered below, but his thoughts were fixed on two people far from Wall Street. Two people who had quietly become his anchor. He didn't need charts or forecasts to know he was changing. And it wasn't just the bracelets or the childlike joy Maya brought. It was Anna's steadiness, her quiet strength. He remembered something his wife once wrote in her journal. Real love is never loud. It listens. It shows up. That's what he was doing now. Showing up. And for the first time in his adult life, it was enough. The keys felt heavier than they should have. Just a simple perron for the front door, one for the lobby mailbox, but when James placed them gently into Anna's hand the following Tuesday evening, it felt like handing over the first piece of solid ground in a lifelong adrift. They stood outside the apartment building near 86th Street. The neighborhood was quiet, tucked between a line of brownstones and a narrow bodega with fading signage. The unit upstairs had been his company's property for years, used occasionally for visiting consultants. It wasn't glamorous, but it was safe, warm, and filled with the smell of fresh paint and new hope. Anna looked at the keys, then up at James. "Are you sure?" "I've never been more sure." She glanced at Maya, who stood beside her, clutching a small stuffed animal and bouncing on the balls of her feet with excitement. James crouched. "Want to see your new home?" Maya's eyes sparkled. "Can I pick which bed is mine?" Anna smiled softly. "There's only one bed, sweetie." Maya nodded. "Then we share." The walk up the stairs was quiet. James opened the door to a modest apartment. One bedroom, a living area, kitchenette, and a bathroom with good lighting. On the small dining table sat a vase of yellow tulips he had picked up that morning. Maya rushed in, her small boots leaving prints on the hardwood, and flopped onto the futon with a giggle. Anna stepped inside more slowly, her eyes scanning the space as though waiting for the floor to fall through. "You can stay as long as you need," James said gently. "There's no clock ticking." Anna took a deep breath. "This feels like too much." James leaned against the doorframe. "You've given me more than you realize, Anna. This is just balance." She turned to him, her voice almost a whisper. "I didn't think people like you people in your world did things like this." I didn't either," he said honestly. Anna smiled faintly and looked around. "We'll take care of it. Keep it clean. Be good tenants." "You already are." Later that evening, he returned with takeout pizza from their favorite neighborhood place and a paper bag filled with simple groceries. They sat on the living room floor, eating from paper plates, laughing when Maya dropped a pepperoni on her shirt and tried to blame the couch. Anna poured sparkling water into chipped mugs James found in the cupboard. "To new beginnings," she said. James raised his mug. "To safe spaces." Maya clinked her cup loudly. "To extra cheese." As night settled, James helped unpack a few essentials: blankets, books, a second-hand lamp from his storage. When he finally stood to leave, Maya hugged him tight, arms wrapping around his waist as naturally as if she'd done it 100 times. "Are you coming tomorrow?" she asked. "Every day you'll have me," James said. Anna walked him to the door. "You know this, what you're doing. It's not just helping me, it's changing her world." "She changed mine first," James replied. As he stepped out into the night, Anna watched him go, her fingers gently closing around the keys in her coat pocket. The next week passed like something fragile trying to learn to fly. James visited daily, sometimes to drop off groceries, sometimes to help Maya with her reading homework, sometimes just to sit with Anna in the evening light, neither of them needing to say much. One night, as the city rumbled outside, Anna opened up more than she ever had. "I had postpartum depression," she said. "After Maya, I didn't tell anyone, not even the nurses. I thought I had to be strong." James listened, silent but attentive. "I used to walk her at night. She wouldn't sleep. I'd hold her for hours. There were nights I cried more than she did. I loved her so much it scared me." He nodded slowly. "Grief is like that too. Loving so much, there's no room for anything else." Anna's eyes met his. The space between them weighted with understanding. They sat like that for a long time, two souls, each scarred in their own way, learning to speak again without words. Then, one rainy Thursday, the peace broke. James was in a meeting when his phone buzzed. It was Anna. "Can you come? It's urgent." Shelter manager showed up, threatening to file a report. His chest tightened. He excused himself mid-sentence and took the elevator down, calling her as he slid into the car. "They came to the apartment?" he asked. "No," Anna replied, voice shaking. "They followed us after school. Said I broke shelter rules. Said if I didn't return immediately, they'd notify social services." James clenched the steering wheel. "They don't have that authority. Maya's safe, fed, warm. They said I didn't report the move, that I endangered her by leaving without clearance." James's voice turned hard. "They're trying to scare you. I'll handle it." By the time he arrived, Anna was pacing the small living room. Maya sat quietly on the couch, knees tucked under her chin, confusion in her eyes. James pulled Anna aside. You did nothing wrong. You moved into legal housing. You protected your daughter. But they have paperwork, she said, her voice cracking. They have protocols. James looked at her, steady. Then we'll fight with ours. That night, James made 3 phone calls to his lawyer, to a social worker he trusted, and to the local family court liaison. By morning, the threats stopped. But something had shifted. Anna no longer felt invisible. She felt watched. And James, for the first time since giving her the keys, felt rage. Not at her. At the system. At a world where doing the right thing could still feel like trespassing. He looked down at the bracelets on his wrist, now slightly faded, slightly frayed. They weren't just symbols anymore. They were vows, and he wasn't going to break them. James stood in the elevator of Holloway Capital the next morning, his reflection in the mirrored walls grim, silent. Beneath the polished suit and professional poise, a storm churned slow and hot. He'd built empires, negotiated deals across continents, shaped the future of companies worth billions. But never had he felt so incensed by bureaucracy, so helpless in the face of quiet, creeping injustice. They tried to threaten Anna, and worse, they used Maya. As he stepped into his office, Marla looked up from her desk. Everything all right, sir? James gave her a tight nod. I need the best pro bono family attorney in the city. Today. Marla blinked. We have a dozen on retainer. Not for us, James said. For someone else. And I need someone who doesn't blink when going up against red tape. She paused, absorbing the weight behind his words. I'll make it happen. Hours later, James sat across from a stern-faced woman in a gray blazer men's. Robin Klein, renowned for exposing mishandled custody cases and advocating for single mothers caught in the web of a flawed system. She listened as James outlined Anna's situation, her expression unchanging. She's living legally in a private residence, yes? Robin asked. Yes. And the shelter is threatening to report her for leaving? They claim she abandoned the system's process, James said. But she did nothing illegal. She moved into safer housing. Robin nodded. Typical. They don't want to lose numbers. They're funded per occupant. It's not about safety. It's about spreadsheets. James's jaw tightened. Robin leaned forward. I can file a protective injunction. Keep CPS off their backs while we formalize Anna's status. But I'll need her cooperation. And her story. All of it. She'll give it, James said. She's strong. I don't doubt it, Robin replied. But strength doesn't shield you from being targeted. Especially not when you're a single black mother in a broken system. James didn't respond, but his silence said enough. That evening, James knocked on the apartment door with a folder tucked under his arm and a weariness he couldn't shake. Anna answered, barefoot and dressed in a soft gray sweater. The air inside smelled of warm rice and garlic, the kind of comfort that comes from home-cooked meals and safe space. You're early, she said. I brought someone, James replied, stepping aside as Robin appeared. Anna's expression shifted. She didn't recoil, but her shoulders rose slightly. Anna, this is Robin Klein. She's a family attorney of the best. I asked her to help. Anna crossed her arms. I didn't ask for legal help. I know, but you need it. Robin stepped forward. Miss Alvarez, I understand the shelter's trying to intimidate you. I've seen this before. We can challenge their authority, but I'll need your full story. Everything, even the hard parts. Anna hesitated, then glanced at Maya, who sat coloring at the table, oblivious. I don't want Maya dragged through this, she said. She won't be, Robin assured her. Not if we do this right. They sat at the table. James poured tea. Maya was gently redirected to her bedroom with promises of a bedtime story later. And then Anna began. She told them everything. The eviction that pushed her to the shelter. The months she waited for placement. The humiliation of curfews and shared showers. The nights Maya cried when strangers screamed in the halls. The day she found mold in the food. The way no one cared, just moved papers, nodded, clicked keyboards. And how the first night in the apartment, quiet, clean. Hers was the first time in years she slept without fear. By the end, Robin's pen had slowed. Her jaw was tight. I've seen hundreds of cases, she said quietly, but this is unacceptable. Anna's eyes shimmered. They made me feel like a criminal. like wanting more for my daughter was selfish. It's not, James said firmly. It's the most selfless thing there is. Robin stood. I'll file tomorrow. We'll request a hearing within the week. If they push, I'll push harder. Anna nodded, her voice barely above a whisper. Thank you. After Robin left, Anna turned to James. I don't know how to thank you for this. You don't have to, he said. You're not alone anymore. They stood in the silence that followed. Then James added softly, when Maya told me she dreamed you disappeared, I knew I couldn't stand by. Anna blinked, tears forming. She doesn't talk about that with me. She's strong like you, James said. But even strong people need anchors. Anna reached for his hand, just for a moment. Later that night, after Maya had gone to sleep, they sat in the living room, the city's hum muffled by thick windows and distance. Anna pulled a worn photo from a book Maya as a baby, wrapped in a blanket, both of them looking exhausted but radiant. She saved me, Anna whispered. I didn't know how much I wanted to live until I saw her face. James leaned back, staring at the ceiling. I didn't know how much I wanted to feel again. Until I met you both. Anna looked over. Do you ever think your wife would understand all this? You, helping us? James was quiet for a long time. Then he said, she once wrote me a note, told me not to shut myself off if anything ever happened to her. Said I should let something good in, even if it didn't look like what we had. Anna smiled gently. Sounds like she knew you well. She always did. As the night grew deeper, Anna stood. I should sleep. Long day tomorrow. James stood too. You're not alone in it. She paused at her door. Neither are you. And for the first time since the system tried to rattle their peace, something stronger settled in its place. Conviction. And family not by blood, but by bond. The courthouse sat like a gray monument on Center Street, stoic and silent in the early morning light. Inside, its marble floors echoed with hurried footsteps and hushed conversations, the air thick with anticipation and quiet dread. James stood near the entrance, dressed in a simple navy suit. Not his usual high-powered armor, but something softer, approachable, human. Beside him, Anna paced in silence, clutching a folder that contained the sum of her story. Maya wasn't there. She was with a trusted neighbor from the apartment building, promised a day of cartoons and coloring books. James had insisted. Today wasn't for her. Robin Klein arrived just before the hearing, her face unreadable, but her energy sharp and assured. I spoke to the clerk, she said. Judge Harmon is presiding. Fair, no nonsense. Likes facts more than flair. Anna took a breath. Do we have a chance? Robin met her gaze. We don't just have a chance. We have truth. In courtroom 4B, the fluorescent lights hummed overhead as the hearing began. On one side of the room, a representative from the shelter sat behind a stack of documents, brows furrowed in studied concern. Their argument was clinical. Ana Alvarez had vacated her assigned shelter space without proper notice, violating state, managed housing protocols. It didn't matter that she had moved into a safer environment. It mattered that the system hadn't approved it. Robin stood with calm precision. Your Honor, Miss Alvarez did not abandon shelter. She exited to legal, private housing offered without coercion or cost. She reported the change within 48 hours. What we have here is not neglect. It's a system-punishing initiative. Judge Harmon, a woman with silver hair and sharp eyes, looked over the documents. I understand Miss Alvarez has a child. Yes, Robin said. A 7-year-old named Maya, bright, thriving, safe. She's currently enrolled in school, up to date on medical care, and living in a secure environment. The judge turned to Anna. Miss Alvarez, why didn't you request clearance before leaving? Anna stood slowly, her voice steady but trembling. Because clearance takes weeks, sometimes months. There were roaches in the shelter kitchen. There were fights in the hallways. My daughter was scared every night. When we were offered a clean, stable place, I took it. I didn't want to wait for permission to protect her. The judge was quiet. Then, to the shelter representative, was the child ever reported missing? Any welfare checks requested? No, Your Honor, the man admitted. But protocol. Protocol is not policy, Judge Harmon cut in, and it is certainly not law. A murmur rippled through the small courtroom. James sat still, watching Anna with a swelling pride that surprised even him. She wasn't the fragile figure she believed herself to be. She was steel wrapped in grace. After more exchanges, the judge leaned back. I've read the testimonies. I've seen the statements. I find no evidence of endangerment or abandonment. Miss Alvarez acted in the best interest of her child. Anna's breath caught. Furthermore, the judge continued, this court issues a protective order. Neither the shelter nor any affiliated agency is to contact or pursue punitive action against Miss Alvarez or her daughter without direct court approval. Robin smiled for the first time. Anna's hands flew to her mouth. James closed his eyes, just for a second, letting the wave of relief pass through him. As they stepped out into the sunlight, Anna looked around as if seeing the city for the first time. I can breathe, she whispered. You've earned that breath, Robin said. James turned to Robin. Thank you, truly. Robin nodded. You believed her. That's more than most ever get. As the attorney walked away, Anna turned to James. I didn't think we'd win. You didn't just win, he said. You proved the system doesn't get to define what's right. She looked at him, eyes wet. This wouldn't have happened without you. James reached for her hand. And none of it matters without you. They walked slowly down the courthouse steps, letting the sun warm their faces. A taxi honked in the distance. Pigeons fluttered overhead. Anna stopped midway down the stairs. Do you ever feel like your life split in half? James nodded. Before and after the worst day? Yes. All the time, he said. She looked at him. And now? He thought about it. Now I think I'm starting to see the bridge between the halves. They smiled, a quiet, knowing moment. Back at the apartment, Maya ran into her mother's arms before turning to James. Did the judge wear a robe? She did, James said. Was it like in the movies? Even better, Anna replied, because it was real, and we walked out together. That night, they ate dinner at the small kitchen, table chicken soup and crackers, Maya's choice. Anna lit a candle she'd been saving for a good day. James raised his cup of tea. To justice. Anna lyftet hers. To courage. Maya raised a half-empty glass of juice. To marshmallows. They laughed, the sound warm, full, alive. James left late that night, the air cooler, gentler. As he walked past a store window, he caught his reflection. The man staring back didn't look like a CEO. He looked like a father. Like a friend. Like a man no longer defined by loss but reshaped by love. And on his wrist, 2 bracelets faded, frayed, and still holding, just like him. Spring arrived slowly that year, like a song with a hesitant first verse. Central Park bloomed in shy pastels. The city shook off its winter shell, and with each passing day, James found himself returning more often to the apartment, not out of duty, but desire. What began as an act of compassion had deepened into something intimate, restorative, mutual. He wasn't just helping Anna and Maya anymore. He was becoming theirs. The apartment, once a temporary sanctuary, now pulsed with the subtle rhythms of family. The hum of the kettle in the morning, Maya's giggles echoing down the hall, the quiet comfort of 2 adults washing dishes side by side. James had even left a spare blazer in the hallway closet, right beside Maya's tiny yellow raincoat. But the world outside their little bubble was watching. It started with whispers in James's own company. A board member asked Marla why the CEO had been rescheduling his mornings. An investor inquired about a woman and child seen leaving James's penthouse on the weekend. It was all innocent, but in the corporate world, curiosity was rarely benign. Then came the article. James walked into his office one Monday morning to find Marla standing by his desk, her expression pale. It's the Tribune, she said, holding up a printout. Page 6. The headline was tame but suggestive. Power, privilege, and a personal project. Who is the woman residing in Holloway's shadow? The article featured a blurry photo of Anna and Maya walking into the apartment building, Maya laughing, Anna holding groceries. No names, no accusations, but enough to raise eyebrows. James's hands clenched. Find out who leaked this, he said. I want names. It's already spreading, Marla said. The board's calling a special session. They want clarity. Ugh. He sat down slowly, the walls of his office feeling suddenly smaller. Later that afternoon, he met Anna on a park bench, the article folded in his coat pocket. I should have seen this coming, he said. Anna read the piece quietly. her fingers trembling just enough for him to notice. "Are they going to fire you?" she asked. James gave a dry laugh. "You don't fire a Holloway from Holloway Capital, but they'll try to use this, frame it as a distraction, question my judgment." Anna folded the paper. "I didn't ask for this kind of spotlight." "I know," he said, "and I'll protect you both, whatever it takes." She looked away, lips tightening. "I've fought to not be someone's burden, James." "You're not. You never were." But the shadows had already begun creeping in. That week, James was summoned before the board. The conference room was tense, 12 executives seated in a circle of silent judgment. The chairwoman, Evelyn Marks, spoke first. "There are concerns, James, about public perception, about influence." James kept his voice even. "If you're asking whether I used company funds to support a friend and her daughter, the answer is no. This is about more than finances," Evelyn said. "This is about optics, stability." James stood. "Let me be clear. I've never hidden anything. Anna Alvarez is a woman who saved lives, including mine. Her daughter is as much a light in my life as any profit margin you could name. If that makes me a risk, then you're not looking at the real value of leadership." There was silence. Evelyn sighed. "We're not here to crucify you, James. But tread carefully. This company has shareholders, not soulmates." The remark stung more than he admitted. That night, he returned to the apartment later than usual. Maya was already asleep, curled beneath a blanket she and James had picked out together weeks earlier, one covered in cartoon planets and stars. Anna sat on the couch, staring at nothing, a cup of untouched tea on the table. "I saw the news online," she said, "and the comments." He sat beside her. "People will always talk. That doesn't make them right. But what if it changes things? What if they start digging into my past, my mistakes?" James reached for her hand. "Then we face it together." Anna looked at him, eyes filled with a quiet terror. "I can't lose Maya." "You won't," he said. "Not while I have breath." She pulled her hand back, stood, paced to the window. The city glowed beyond the glass, oblivious. "James, I need to ask something hard. Anything. If this gets worse, if staying close to us puts your future at risk, your work, your name, would you walk away?" He didn't answer right away. Then, softly, "I'd walk away from all of that before I'd walk away from you." Tears filled her eyes, but she turned away before they fell. He stood, placed a hand on her shoulder. "I'm not here out of pity, Anna. I'm here because in a world that forgot how to care, you reminded me what it means to matter." Her voice broke. "I'm scared." "So am I," he whispered, "but we're still standing." They stood in silence, wrapped in the city's distant hum and the promise that no matter how loud the world shouted, their quiet truth would not be shaken. Outside, rain began to fall, soft, steady, relentless. Inside, James and Anna faced the glass, their reflections side by side. Not perfect, but real. The backlash came slowly at first, like water seeping through old wood. Then it surged. 3 days after the article hit, a second wave of press followed. Anonymous sources, speculative blogs, grainy photographs of James walking hand in hand with Maya, another of Anna smiling beside him at the Winter Street Fair weeks ago. Headlines screamed half-truths: Holloway's hidden life, power meets poverty, CEO's dangerous distraction. James's inbox filled with board concerns. Clients called. One investor quietly pulled out of a minor venture. A whisper campaign started among competitors, allegations of impropriety, of personal life tainting professional judgment. At Holloway Capital, Marla began fielding calls she'd never expected. "Should we issue a formal statement?" she asked James during their early morning briefing. "No," he said, voice firm. "We don't defend integrity. We live it." But even as he spoke the words, he felt the glass beneath his feet beginning to creak. At the apartment, things grew quieter. Anna no longer took Maya to the corner cafe in the mornings. She walked faster, wore sunglasses even on cloudy days, and began screening every call. Maya noticed. "Why can't I go to the playground this week?" she asked one evening, cradling her stuffed rabbit in her arms. Anna knelt beside her. "It's just busy right now, honey." Did I do something wrong?" Anna's heart cracked. "Never. You are perfect." James tried to reassure them both. He brought books, cooked dinners, stayed longer into the night. But even Maya's drawings, once filled with rainbows and houses, now featured gray clouds and stick figures with uncertain faces. One night, as Anna sat folding laundry, James approached her with an envelope. "What's this?" she asked. "A trust," he said. "For Maya, for you. If anything happens to Ma publicly, professionally you're protected." Anna held the envelope like it might catch fire. "James, I can't accept this." "You're not accepting charity," he said. "You're accepting partnership." "I didn't ask for." "No," he interrupted gently, "but you earned it. The way you've fought, the way you've stayed kind." She stared at the envelope, fingers trembling. "What if this is the beginning of the end?" He sat beside her. "Then let's begin something better." Anna looked away. "They're not just attacking you, they're coming for me now. People digging into my past. Someone emailed my old nursing program asking about my moral conduct. Another posted about the shelter, calling me an opportunist." James felt the familiar fire rising. "Tell me who. I'll handle it." But Anna shook her head. "You can't shield us from everything." "I can try." She gave him a tired smile. "You already have." The turning point came in the form of an invitation. A televised charity gala, hosted by the New York Children's Foundation. James was scheduled to speak. Cameras, donors, journalists. It was the kind of event CEOs use to restore image, polish reputation. Marla brought the invitation into his office, raising an eyebrow. "They still want you there? They think I'll put on the suit, say something safe, and let the narrative die quietly." James tapped the edge of his desk. "But maybe it's time to do the opposite." Later that night, he sat across from Anna at the apartment table. Maya slept nearby, her head on a pillow of picture books. "I want you to come with me," he said. Anna blinked. "To the gala?" He nodded. "I'm not a showpiece," she said, instantly guarded. "I know, but you're part of my life, and I'm done hiding what matters." She folded her arms. "They'll tear me apart." James leaned forward. "Or they'll see what I see, a woman who didn't back down, a mother who refused to settle, someone who didn't need rescuing, just a chance." Anna looked down at her hands. "What would I even wear?" James smiled. "Something that makes you feel like the force you are." She laughed softly, surprised. "You really think one night can change their minds?" "No," he said, "but it can change the narrative. And sometimes, that's enough to start a ripple." The night of the gala arrived with spring rain and soft wind. The event was held in a glass ballroom on the Hudson, the skyline gleaming beyond like a silent witness. Anna stepped out of the car in a simple black dress James had delivered quietly days before. It wasn't designer, but it was elegant. Her hair was pinned back, makeup light but striking. Maya stayed home with Marla, who insisted on babysitting like it was her personal mission. James offered his arm. "You look like truth." Anna rolled her eyes. "Let's just survive the night." Inside, the crowd parted with practiced ease. There were glances, double takes, but also smile, surprised, curious, not yet cruel. During dinner, a woman leaned across the table, her diamonds catching the light. "And what do you do, dear?" Anna smiled politely. "I'm studying to finish my nursing degree. I'm also raising the world's most incredible 7-year-old. The woman blinked, then nodded slowly. "Sounds like the hardest job in the room." When it came time for James to speak, he took the stage with a steadiness that came not from polish, but purpose. He began, not with data, but story. About a little girl who offered a hug to a stranger on a cold winter day. About a mother who fought for stability when no one else would offer it. About how wealth wasn't measured in dollars, but in decency in who we choose to stand beside when it costs us everything. He didn't mention Anna by name, but as he looked out into the crowd, his eyes found hers. And in that moment, something shifted. Not in the crowd, in her. Later, on the balcony, away from the cameras, Anna stepped close. "You didn't have to say those things." "I did," James said, "because they're true." She rested her hand on his chest, where his heart beat steady under the weight of truth. "Then let's keep telling them," she whispered. And just like that, in a city of noise and neon, 2 lives whispered their way into something louder than headlines. Hope. The night after the gala, headlines spread like wildfire. "Holloway defies critics. Brings shelter survivor as guest. Read one outlet. From boardroom to ballroom, James Holloway's unexpected companion, another said. There were photos Anna walking into the event beside James, her arm lightly resting on his. She wasn't smiling for the cameras, but her presence alone was a statement. The internet reacted as it always does, with opinions that ran from admiration to venom. Some praised James for standing by his convictions. Others accused him of using Anna for image repair. Still others dug deeper, trying to frame the relationship as inappropriate, transactional, manufactured. Anna stayed off the news. She deleted her social media accounts, stopped answering unknown calls. But James couldn't shield her from everything. The comments found their way to her inbox, calls to investigate her past, attempts to contact her old employers, even suggestions that she was unfit to raise Maya. One evening, she found a printed letter taped to the front door of the apartment. "We don't want your kind here." Anna stared at the words, her breath caught in her chest. She folded the paper neatly and placed it in the trash without a word. When James arrived that night, Maya was asleep on the couch, and Anna was sitting silently at the dining table, a cup of untouched tea in her hands. "We need to move," she said flatly. James sat across from her. "What happened?" She told him. He said nothing at first, then reached across and took her hand. "I can put you both in a building with security, somewhere anonymous." Anna shook her head. "No more hiding, no more running. Then we stay," he said, "and we fight. Every time. Together." Anna looked at him, her voice quiet. "Are you sure this is worth it?" He didn't blink. "You and Maya are the only thing I've been sure about in years." She closed her eyes. "They think I don't belong in your world." "They're wrong," James said. "You make my world worth living in." Later that night, as the city buzzed outside and Maya's soft breathing filled the apartment, James sat alone by the window, thinking. His board had requested an emergency meeting. Not about profits, about ethics, image, alignement. He knew what was coming. The boardroom was full. Evelyn Marks opened the meeting with no pretense. "James, we're facing increasing pressure from stakeholders. Some clients are expressing discomfort. They're questioning how your recent choices reflect on the company." James remained seated, calm. "My personal life does not compromise our business." "Maybe not directly," Evelyn said, "but perception matters." Another member leaned forward. "There's concern that your involvement with Miss Alvarez has become more than philanthropic, that it now crosses into favoritism, personal entanglement that clouds executive judgment." "Are you suggesting that compassion disqualifies leadership?" James asked. "We're saying," Evelyn said carefully, "that you've built this company on credibility, detachment, strategy. Your image is part of the brand, and right now, that image is complicated." James stood. "I lost my family in a car crash 4 years ago. My wife, my son. Do you remember that?" A silence fell across the room. "For years, I functioned on autopilot, made money, signed deals, pretended life still mattered. Then I met a little girl who offered me a bracelet and asked if I needed a hug. And her mother who, despite every reason to give up, fought to keep going. I remembered what it felt like to feel human again." No one interrupted. "I will not apologize for finding purpose again. I will not abandon the people who reminded me what life is supposed to feel like, just because it makes some people uncomfortable." Evelyn met his gaze. "Are you saying you'd risk your seat at this table?" James nodded. "If that's the price of decency, then yes." He turned and walked out, his heart pounding not with fear, but clarity. That night, he told Anna everything. Her first instinct was panic. "You can't lose your company over this." "I'm not losing it," James said. "I'm reclaiming it." She looked at him, searching his face for doubt. There was none. Then she whispered, "I don't want to be the reason. You're the reason I'm standing." They sat in silence, the kind that isn't empty, but full of truth, of weight, of quiet defiance. Then softly, Anna asked, "What now?" James reached into his pocket and pulled out a folded paper. A copy of Maya's latest school drawing. A house, a tree, 3 stick figures holding hands beneath a giant sun. "I think we keep going," he said, "step by step." Anna smiled. "I can walk with that." 3 days later, the news broke. James Holloway had voluntarily stepped down as CEO of Holloway Capital. The press speculated endlessly, but those close to him knew the truth. He wasn't stepping down. He was stepping forward into a new chapter. One built not on acquisitions, but authenticity. The apartment became quieter in the weeks that followed, but more alive. James cooked more. Maya showed him how to dance badly to pop songs. Anna studied late into the night, her nursing exams looming. And one evening, Maya came into the living room, holding the old faded bracelet in her small hand. "It's getting loose," she said. James knelt beside her. "That's okay. Things that stay with us too long change shape, but they don't stop meaning something." Maya wrapped it around his wrist again, tightening the knot. "I still like it." He smiled. "Me too." In that moment, the noise of the world faded, and in its place was the only thing that ever really mattered. Family. Bound not by blood, but by choice, by courage, by the quiet, unshakable truth that some things some people are worth holding on to. Spring gave way to early summer, and with it came a sense of rhythm. Not the rushed tempo of city ambition, but a slower, deeper beat, the kind that sways with laughter around dinner tables and the hum of fans in open windows. Life didn't suddenly become easy, but it became livable, tangible, real. James spent his mornings writing something he hadn't done since college. Short pieces, reflections, nothing public. Some about grief, others about courage, most about Maya's knock-knock jokes and Anna's quiet strength. He didn't miss boardrooms. He didn't miss quarterly reports. He missed nothing from his old life, except perhaps the illusion that it once had meaning. Now, he had something else. Anna passed her final nursing exam with honors. When the results came in, she didn't scream or cry. She just stood in the kitchen, phone in hand, and let out a long breath she'd been holding for years. James walked in just in time to see her smile, tired and radiant. "You did it," he said. "I did it," she whispered. For her. They hugged, no fanfare, just the quiet acknowledgement of mountains climbed. That same week, Maya brought home a flyer from school and end-of-year performance. "It's a play," she said, beaming. "I'm a sunflower." Anna kissed her forehead. "You've always been one." James marked the date immediately. "Front row," he promised. The night of the performance, the small school auditorium filled with parents and the soft chaos of wriggling children. James sat beside Anna, holding a bouquet of daisies too big for Maya's little arms. When Maya stepped on stage, wearing a cardboard petal crown and a yellow shirt, James felt his throat tighten. She looked so confident, so alive. Midway through the show, her line came, "Even when storms come, the sun is still behind the clouds." Simple, childish, and completely profound. When the curtain closed and the crowd clapped, Maya's eyes searched the audience until they found James and Anna. She waved wildly. James stood and waved back, the flowers forgotten in his lap, his heart louder than the applause. Later that week, they took a walk through Riverside Park, the three of them. Maya ran ahead chasing bubbles from a street vendor. Anna walked quietly, her arm linked with James's. "Everything still feels fragile," she said. James nodded. "Maybe that's because it is, but fragile things aren't worthless. They just need care." She looked at him, unsure. "What about your next chapter?" James exhaled. "I've been thinking. I want to start something new, not a business, a foundation. For? For people like you, like Maya, people slipping through the cracks because no one bothered to look down and help them up." Anna paused. "You're serious?" "I've already filed the paperwork," James said. "It's called the Bridge Project." She smiled. "That was what you said in court, about finding the bridge between the halves of your life." He nodded. "This time, I want to be the bridge." They sat on a bench as Maya ran toward them, her cheeks pink from laughter. "Can we get ice cream?" she asked. James stood. "Only if you let me have 2 scoops." Maya gasped. 3. Anna rolled her eyes playfully. 1 each. And as they walked toward the cart, the sky opened up in a sudden summer shower, gentle, warm, soaking them before they could even laugh. James took off his jacket and held it over Maya's head. Anna grabbed his hand, and they ran together, drenched and laughing, down the sidewalk. They didn't run from the rain. They ran through it. Weeks passed. The apartment filled with plants Maya tried to keep alive and books Anna stacked in every corner. James turned a small storage room into a home office, nothing fancy, just a desk and a bulletin board filled with photos, ideas, hand-drawn stars from Maya. One afternoon, Anna found him in that room, staring out the window. "What are you thinking?" she asked. He turned. "I was wondering if it's too early to call this home." Anna stepped closer. "James, it's been home since the night she gave you that bracelet." He looked down at the faded thread on his wrist. It had held longer than anyone expected. "Do you think it's strange," he said, "that I lost everything, and somehow, it led me here?" "No," she said, resting her head on his shoulder. "I think it led you to us." A year later, they stood on a different stage. Anna, in a white coat, accepting a job at the city's public clinic. Maya, now in 3rd grade, reading chapter books and writing stories that always ended with hugs. And James, no longer a CEO, no longer a man haunted by loss, stood beside them as a partner, a father figure, a man who traded wealth for worth. The Bridge Project thrived quietly, one life at a time. No headlines, no PR campaigns, just help, real help. And on their first official holiday as a family, James stood in the kitchen watching Anna prepare dinner, while Maya danced in socks across the tile floor. The smell of roasted vegetables filled the air. Music played softly, laughter echoed. He raised his glass. "To the family we found in the places we least expected." Anna lifted hers. "To storms we survived." Maya lifted her juice. "To sunflowers." And in that tiny kitchen, in the soft glow of an ordinary evening, the extraordinary happened. Nothing. No tragedy. No twist. Just peace. Just love. Just home. The story of James, Anna, and Maya teaches us that true family is not defined by blood, but by love, resilience, and the quiet courage to stand by one another when the world turns cold. It reminds us that healing often begins with a simple act of kindness, a hug, a shared meal, a moment of truth. In a world that often values status over sincerity, this story celebrates the power of human connection, the dignity of every life, and the quiet strength it takes to choose compassion over comfort. Ultimately, it's a testament to how we rebuild after loss, not alone, but together.